the football aspect and outside of powerlifting, and as we moved on, we spent the one summer together coaching the Mountain Ridge High School football team, just in the weight room and technique. And I would say I certainly learned a lot from that, because it's one thing to help someone who's already established in the weight room. Like meeting you early, you knew how to squat. And like, maybe I was just showing you, like you said, hey, you can arch your back a little bit more, tuck your shoulders on the bench. But teaching ninth grade students how to lift weights is a totally different beast, because they hardly know how to climb a set of stairs, let alone squat to depth.
Right.
Do you want to kind of elaborate like your thinking as far as, because we wrote those programs, mostly you, as far as what they needed to do, kind of go off of that a little bit.
Yeah. And then like what you're saying too, is if you got everybody established, like minor tweaks are pretty easy, but like you said, a group full of ninth graders, you got some guys that are almost developed into who they're going to be. And then you've got some kids that haven't really hit puberty much yet. So, or just being awkward. Like some like we had 4 squat racks. So what we did was we put our guys that could do it, they were together, and the guys that couldn't do it, we had to slow them down. So like, even though we were programming, this is what we wanted, these cats over here can't do it yet. These guys are getting there. We got to figure it out on what we need to do. And if it just meant not a lot of weight, whatever, that was fine. Like I knew we had a group that came in, and we were like, man, we got a lot to work with these cats. These guys, they're going to be fine. But I think we did a phenomenal job with that group. Just seeing the strides that they made throughout the 2 or 3 months we were with them, just learning how to do the lifts properly. So once they can put weight on it, it's not an issue of, oh, well, you're bending over at your back and not your hips, whatever it was. It was when we got to those increments, we could do it. And I think we did a good job of like load management of what we could, what guys could take and what couldn't take. And obviously we did some stuff where we had to do some mental toughness stuff, but the true lifting part of it, I thought we taught really well. We had some really strong ninth graders come in. Like once they got to August, I mean, we had, I think 4, 5, or 6 of them squatting over 300 pounds. So like, that's pretty big. Like, I mean, I think we struggled a little bit in bench press because we didn't have the greatest bench presses there. So it made it a little bit harder, but they did a pretty good job of that. Hang clean, just being explosive. That's the most common athletic lift you can do. They got pretty good at that. Obviously that takes a while, but they were starting to get the hang of it and get it to where we needed to be. And like you said, it started us from, okay, no weight on the bar, PCP pipe, hang cleans. We're doing a circuit to just get the motions down. Now we got to put them together, different things of that. I think overall they got really, really strong for what the time period we had. If we kept doing it for another year or two, they'd have been extremely strong, I think. But what we had was, I think we had a pretty good results because of how we managed the room itself. So we weren't just go throwing weight 3 sets of 10. Like, not everybody in the high school level has a true strength coach. It's a football coach that goes to the gym sometimes. So he thinks he's got a great idea, which by all means, some of them do a good job of doing that. But when you got true guys that know the ins and out of how to load management and teach the techniques that need to be done and why it benefits the way you do it, makes it you see a lot of big strides come in through guys, especially at that age, because like I said, they're still developing, learning, things like that. So like I said, I think we did a really good job of what we could do with the guys.
Yeah, I would agree. And like kind of reflecting on that, I think we had a really solid season of like progress. And you had mentioned starting them with the bar and PVC pipes, and that's literally what we did.
Yeah.
And I kind of want to emphasize too, you had mentioned we had several people squatting over 300 pounds, and that was a true 2-depth 300-pound squat. And I think sometimes and football has a stigma for this, like the football squat depth. And I would love to know where like that thought process came from. I feel like it just kind of like found its way into sports and sports coaches, and they learned somewhere. They were like, you can only squat so deep or else it'll hurt your knees. And then everyone, it like infected the entire United States, I feel like.
So
I literally was talking to my students today, some of the football players, and they were like talking about squat depth or something. And I was just explaining to them because someone said like, oh, you don't squat too deep, it'll hurt your knees. I was like, whoa. It's actually better for your knees to squat deeper, right? It's like using your hips more. But yeah, I think we did a good job of just like taking it back to the basics and teaching them how to do the movements, right? And I like to hope, we've all been there as the ego-driven high schooler who doesn't want to squat to death, but I like to think some of those kids kept those habits and like could continue getting stronger even after we were gone.
Well, because I was still coaching, I just wasn't the strength coach after the year. So coming back, so it was funny. So like the guys that we still had on, and they did their max squats, they were doing it, and then the guys that weren't with us weren't doing it. So it's like, yeah, you squatted 400, he's only squatted 3, but he went to depth and you didn't. So, but I wasn't the judge of it at that time, so it was none of my. I wasn't going to say that doesn't count, but we did. I mean, we truly sat to the side and made them squat to depth, and it wasn't going to count. And you had 2 guys that have been in meets. We know what the judgment looks like, and so it kind of helped. But kind of going back to what you said with the whole like it hurts your knees. Now it's like I don't know. It could be correct. A lot of people don't want athletes squatting to depth because they're never going to be in that position.
Yeah. And I have heard that before. I'm going to let you share what you think on that, and then I will share my thoughts. And I'm just curious.
Yeah, right. I mean, I get the validity of it, but the idea of you're never going to be that deep in a squat and we're training for your sport. But at the same time, when you go to depth, you're going to hit all your muscles in your quads and stuff. So like why you wouldn't, I get your idea, but you also can get that out of with the hex bar deadlift. The idea is like, we're not going to get down that deep so we're going to just pull it from there to there. I get this idea, but my guys, when I'm back in the strength conditioning world, we're going to go to depth. So it's embedded in me now. So it's too late. I don't care. I don't want to see the science on it. I just want we're going to do it.
Yeah. But my kind of rebuttal to what you were saying, the idea that they won't be in that position, is more of like, well, if you never train that position, and yes, they're not supposed to ever be in that position, but what if like a lineman gets folded up for some reason and like their leg gets stretched in that range of motion, that they never train? I feel like that's when you get hurt, is like that time you're not supposed to be in that position, but you end up being there.
In it.
So like, why not just train through it? It's not like it's necessarily hurting you. If anything, you just have to do a little less weight to squat a little deeper. And then like in that off chance that you get forced into a bad position in your sport, then maybe you are less likely to get hurt because your musculature is like used to that flexibility.
It's a good point. Think about it that way.